Of all the League of Legends characters, I never quite thought Nunu and Willump would be the characters to get their own game. Publisher Riot Forge had been on a roll, putting out titles like The Mage Seeker and Ruin King to expand the world of their popular free-to-play MOBA. And this latest title of theirs, Song of Nunu, a League of Legends story, is no different. Unfortunately, very recently the company has decided to shutter Riot Forge as a whole, leaving this game as one of the publisher's last releases. Worlds with potential were cut short if you ask me, especially because this game rocks. Developed by Tequila Works of Rime and Gylt pedigree, Song of Nunu, a League of Legends story, takes the form of a third-person adventure title that has the players play the role of Nunu, a little kid in search of his mother, and a chunky four-handed yeti named Willump, who watches over the little one. But what follows is not only a fun ride through the Freljords, but also Tequila Works' best title yet. Song of Nunu starts us off with the little boy wonder Nunu, a no-tie youngling who stumbles out of a cave and proceeds to get smacked with a snowball by Willump. This moment really sets the tone of Song of Nunu, a game that's all about Nunu's coming-of-age story as he sets out to find the true blue and hopefully his missing mother. The great yeti Willump too tags along and makes sure that the little warrior is safe. From defense to free sleds, he's not letting any adversaries from the world of Runeterra get to his best bud. So naturally, you get to play as both Nunu and Willump as you explore the Freljords, a frozen wonder or hellscape depending on the time of day. You'll primarily play as the little flute player, but switch to Willump as needed when he comes to scoop you up. Both characters feel great to control as they feature the right amount of mass, and you'll need the proper momentum to make jumps. There's no need for precise jumping or anything, as most platforms are giant landmasses or walls you can hang and grapple about. But the more unique feature of Song of Nunu isn't the world, but Willump himself. This big spot of fur isn't just a playable character, but a tag-along. He'll follow Nunu about his adventure, sit down, feel sleepy at random, build snow people, and chuckle snowballs back at you if you instigate. There's even a dedicated hug button. Think of Willump as the Last Guardian's Trico, except he's far more responsive and way better at solving puzzles. Plus, he likes snowball fights, and that's easily a winning trait for a good friend. Speaking of puzzles, that's your primary gatekeeper in the Freljords. They don't amount to anything difficult. Most of the time, you just need to tug on a switch or two. You'll use Nunu's signature flute to play no-tie songs to activate nodes or carry magic from one spot to another, all conveniently controlled with the bumpers and triggers to play notes in the proper shapes in which they appear. Sometimes you'll need to use his flute in tandem with platforming sequences to get past the stone blocking your way, but ultimately there's nothing extraneous to worry about. Like the puzzles, the game's combat is straightforward. You'll almost always fight as Willump, and for that, you'll whack foes with light and heavy attacks, also being able to mix them up for combos in conjunction with your jump button. Enemies primarily consist of wolves, but also elementals and things infected with dark ice. For some foes, charging up Nunu's snowballs with true ice powers will be key to taking them down. But otherwise, combat sequences are short and, frankly speaking, can be counted with both of your hands. I think what really works with Song of Nunu is how well these sequences are paced out. Cutscenes are frequent, but the game never dawdles too much on one kind of gameplay, and you're always moving to new areas within the Freljord. These areas are gorgeously detailed, not just with their aesthetically pleasing art style, but the scale and structure of the world. You'll find creatures shaped like mountains, a city nestled deep within a mountain, and a fortress entrenched in the freezing tundras. Aram fans say hut. Song of Nunu really accentuates my favorite part of League of Legends, its spin on the Warcraft style of heavy armor and intimidating character designs. The best part? Song of Nunu keeps a fluid 120 frames per second on my admittingly overpowering Ryzen 9 desktop build, and a range of 70 to 90 frames per second on my Asus ROG laptop. This is a great port, but it needs a borderless windowed mode option. This week, Song of Nunu also launches on Xbox consoles, and for the most part the game runs well on the Xbox Series X. From what I can tell, it sticks to a 4K resolution whenever possible, and targets 60 frames per second. It's nice when it hits that frame target, but often the game will judder as the frame drops, likely because of the game's triple buffer VSync technique. Still, it's perfectly playable and looks as good as it did when I played it on PC. Song of Nunu's narrative continues right off the origins of Nunu and Willump. This setup can be a bit intimidating, largely because the world of League of Legends is huge, and picking a point in the timeline to jump right into can be a terrible idea when you're trying to keep the player interested. Especially as I felt Song of Nunu leaned very heavily on its story and setting over the mechanics. Right off the bat, it was a little difficult for me to care for the plight of both our heroes, and the beginning of the game is slow enough that I was a bit absent-minded in my progression. It's when Nunu begins meeting other champions like Braum that things begin to pick up. These fateful encounters are integral to his development, and thankfully they come sooner rather than later. The climax and final section of the game really shine thanks to fun encounters and a coat of polish that sheens all around Song of Nunu. The mechanics may be simple, but the package is put together with great care. One thing I want to comment on is the wide range of not just available text localizations, but also dubbing. Song of Nunu supports 16 languages, and of that, 13 of them are fully voiced. This even includes languages like Turkish, which are frequently underrepresented in gaming. When I saw that option, I immediately switched to it and wasn't disappointed. I felt the character voices fit, the direction was good, and Braum sounded all the better in Turkish. From the beautiful presentation to the fun coming-of-age story, Song of Nunu, a League of Legends story, is easily one of Tequila Works' best. Fans of League of Legends have had their hands full with Riot Forge's other releases, and they can have another helpful serving of a fantastic adventure game.